So actually on Friday, the 29th of September, so instead of talking about Meghan Markle running for Dianne Feinstein's seat, they could have been talking about this in the British media, but whatever. It was announced that the Prince and Princess of Wales would visit Cardiff to celebrate Black History Month. To celebrate the 75th anniversary of the arrival of the Empire Windrush to the UK and mark the start of Black History Month, they would meet members of the Windrush generation and celebrate the work of diverse community groups in their area. Whilst in the city, their Royal Highnesses will also visit a local school to hear about the extensive range of opportunities they offer pupils in the curriculum and the work they have been doing around the Windrush generation. So if you don't know what Windrush is, last year was the 75th. This year was the 75th anniversary of the ship Empire Windrush arriving in the UK in 1948. It carried people from the Caribbean as well as from India, mostly Black, definitely Black and brown people, to the UK to help fill post-war labor shortages. So a lot of these people became essentially essential workers working on the cleanup around the UK after World War II. Yeah. And even though they were so integral to that effort, the British government kept absolutely no record of the people who were allowed to remain in the country. They issued no paperwork to these people. And so that obviously made it difficult for them down the road to prove their legal status as part of this influx, this immigration wave. Because the Windrush generation, as they are now known, they came from Commonwealth nations. They didn't think that they needed paperwork. Some of their colonies that they came from were not independent at this time. They thought they were British citizens. Unfortunately, the government felt otherwise. And I think you have here some notes about Theresa May's 2012 immigration policy, which is just disgusting to read.
May she continue to burn in hell.
Theresa May's still alive.
Oh, she is? Well, then burn her,
Theresa
okay?
May? I think you're thinking of Margaret Thatcher.
Oh, okay. All of them. Just, like, if you want to look at white women who can destroy you and destroy us, let's look to them, okay? Look to them. So, Theresa May pretty much spearheaded this, horrible policy. It's called the Hostile Environment Policy. This was in 2012.
And these people think that they're not the supervillains. The Hostile Environment Policy.
Yeah, just the name alone. We're talking... Okay, let me not get ahead of myself. So, it's pretty much the root of the anti-immigration laws that you are seeing in the UK. And I honestly would not be shocked if our US politicians were taking note from this policy too for their own, because anti-immigration, specifically towards Black and brown people, is just an all-time high right now. So a little bit about what this policy was. This is from the Joint Council for the Welfare of Immigration. They explained it as the policy announced in 2012, which tasked the NHS, landlords, banks, employers, and many others with enforcing immigration controls. It aimed to make the UK unlivable for undocumented migrants and ultimately push them to leave. Because many of the Windrush generation arrived as children on their parents' passports, and the Home Office destroyed thousands of landing cards and other records, many lacked the documentation to prove their right to remain in the UK. The Home Office also placed the burden of proof on individuals to prove their residency predated 1973. The Home Office demanded at least one official document from every year they had lived here, attempting to find documents from decades ago create a huge and in many cases impossible burden on people who had done nothing wrong. And to really lay it on how horrible this is, that happened in 2012. The deportations, the arrests, these people losing their jobs and losing access to healthcare. Let's not forget the Windrush generation helped build the NHS. That happened immediately in 2013. That still started happening in 2013, you guys. This did not break to become public knowledge until 2017. The woman who broke this open in 2017 was for an Art Guardian article, and her name is Amelia Gentleman. She did a lot of research on this. She also got a lot of access from the Windrush generation to what they were going through. So that broke in 2017. And then finally, by 2018, the government had to acknowledge what they had done.
Yeah, so Theresa May apologized for the treatment of specifically the Windrush generation, not the hostile environment policy as a whole. They announced an inquiry into the treatment of the Windrush generation and a plan for compensation to anyone affected by this policy from that generation was established. Fast forward a couple of years, 2021, only about a fifth of the people eligible for compensation had made claims. Compensation, by the way, that if you were deported, you would receive £10,000. If you were denied access to higher education, you would receive £500. And you could get £250 for every month that you experienced homelessness. So, first of all, that's a little laughable. Yeah. But because we're talking about people who had lived in the UK for decades. And only about a fourth of the people who made claims actually got their compensation. So this is a very ineffective program, a very ineffective way of, I don't even want to call it reparations because it shouldn't have happened in the first place.
And
people place blames on the... the blame was placed on the program's design and the way that it was operated within the government, including what you said, the burden of proof being placed on people from the Windrush generation to apply themselves. A lot of these people, English wouldn't have been their first language. They might not have had the tools to navigate the bureaucratic nightmare that making this claim would have required. So it's so interesting on a couple of levels that the royals have now taken up the Windrush generation as, I would say, their favorite way to acknowledge communities of color in the United Kingdom. They love it.
You said it was 2020 or 2019 when they started talking about the reparations program and
2021 was when the stats came out about who had received compensation.
And I think that's an important number to point out because there's a couple of reasons, and we'll go over this, why we think that the royals are so involved with the Windrush generation or doing Black History Month. But I'm saying I feel like that's an important number because we really start seeing the royals get involved with the Windrush generation around 2021. And you guys, again, remember the royals are part of the government. They are literally, the monarch is literally the head of the government. So when they say they can't be political, that's not an accurate statement. They are political. They're the government. They just can't be bipartisan. Okay.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So, and I think there's a couple, I feel like, underlying things here because this all breaks in 2017. What's happening in 2017? Harry and Meghan are engaged. Then they are married in 2018. This is when the government finally has to apologize for this. And I bring up those numbers because it's very important for certain demographics like the government, which the monarch, of course, is ahead of, and the Tory government, which the royals are very, very closely associated with the Tories, is for them to all counteract the racist policies that they enacted by pretty much doing a lot of virtue signaling. You know what I mean? A lot of just representation, proximity, like I'm around a lot of Black people. What are you talking about? And I think it's so important to realize the weight on Meghan's shoulder during that time period is even more so knowing this is all going on behind the scenes because the royals and the Tory government wanted her to be their token to show that they aren't racist. And they accept foreigners. Remember, she's also American. So someone who's migrating over. So they're like, wait, no, we like Black migrants. What are you talking about, you guys? And this is where you get but we celebrated her wedding. We were so happy for her. So then they can quickly take it away from her and be like, well, why didn't she appreciate us? It's like what they're doing with the Windrush generation. Well, we let you guys come here and we said we're going to give you some money. Why aren't you being appreciative? Why are you asking us for more? It's just... Yeah.
Well, and the thing with Windrush too is it really brings in this, like, it's uncomfortable for me even, but this conversation of like, who is worthy of leniency when these immigration policies are being enacted? The generation that came and literally rebuilt your country, they are the only ones getting grace here. And that to me is just like, so, like the fact that the bar,
is very icky.
The bar is like they
had to come in and save you. Exactly.
Right. And that's the only reason that they even, I'm sure, considered these reparations, the fact that like they were so ingrained in the fabric of British society. And I think that plays into why the British royal family chose to, can I use the word tokenize the Windrush generation?
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, yes, because again, like the numbers are so important. These dates are so important with what everything is going on with the government and with them, because, you know, again, you also have this stuff going on with the government being called out for the Windrush generation. And as you're hearing too about the government mistreating these people and being completely racist, because I think too, it kind of reminds me of like the stop and frisk policies they had in New York, where it's like cops could just see someone like, I think they're being bad and I'm going to frisk them. Most likely people are going to want to frisk Black and brown people. So it's like the business owners, are they going to stop a random white person and be like, are you from this country? No, they're most likely going to stop the Black or brown person.
A Swedish immigrant.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's like they knew what they were doing. Yeah, they knew who was going to be targeted.
Institutionally, there's a way of wording these policies so that they can be disproportionately applied to communities of color. And then
for them to throw their hands in the air. Yeah, and them throw their hands in there, say, this isn't racist. I didn't say it had only be Black and brown people. I said anyone. Right. They know what they're doing now. So talking about that, let's also, on the royal side, they have the Meghan and Harry stuff. 2021 is the Oprah interview. Okay. 2022 is the Netflix special. That's on December 1st. And, you know, the bad R is mentioned. British imperialism has pretty much turned into the Commonwealth now. And then 3 months later, March 2022, is when William and Kate go on that disastrous Caribbean tour. So they then come back, and in June, which is now the National Windrush Day or something like that, the government enacted, I think in 2019, they celebrated by unveiling that statue.
Which
William,
go ahead.
Oh, yes. Oh no, please, because I think I know what you're going to talk about. Are you going to talk about the certain media got pushed out for that?
Oh no, you please. I'll let you handle that. But no, Kate repeated a suit from her Caribbean tour, the white McQueen suit that she wore to Jamaica when was he the governor of the island, the prime minister, told them to their faces that he was going to try and remove the British monarch. So I don't know if that was like a little cheeky reference. I don't know what.
But we support them because people forget that has never happened. That does not happen. I can't even think of a time Charles was called out like that. And he's like the least liked member. That was insane. Like, it was so amazing to see people who are the descendants of slavery, the people that they got their riches off of, tell them, we good. We are good, to make them uncomfortable. I live for it. I love it. And it's my Roman Empire is that video. Okay. That's my Roman Empire.
And then Kate goes, she takes the blazer that she was wearing in that video and wears it to the unveiling of this Windrush statue, almost, I think, in a way to like reclaim that narrative. No. We're fine with it. We're fine with it. We honor these communities. Yeah.
Because in that too, there's a speech from William, and I have to say it's actually a good speech. I don't know if they finally are putting money out there for a script writer or a speech writer, but it was a good speech. And during the unveiling, he talks about, and he says, like, you guys were mistreated, racism, dogged you guys. Obviously, he didn't say that, but he recognized these things, and he recognized it more than he did in his speeches in the Caribbean. It was very clear. They realized, oh, we have to be a little bit more aggressive about recognizing. I'm going to have to say the R word, racism.
And they stop short of the S word, sorry, or of giving any
There's still
apology.
No apology.
Because they still don't see it as their place, which maybe it is, maybe it isn't. They don't see it as their place to apologize for these things happening in the first place, which other monarchies have been able to go there. I think it was the Dutch monarch, King Willem Alexander, who did formally apologize for the crown's role in Dutch slavery. But the British monarchy, they seem to be treading a little bit more lightly.
They refuse to actually apologize. Like, we're sorrows. This was so horrible. And again, I have abhorrent. A Substack on that. Yeah, it's abhorrent. And I have a Substack on that because I think it's so important to look at local media in these situations. And of course, the local media provided so much more context and nuance than the British media did. But a lot of the responses they were getting was, of course, we know it's bad. We know slavery was bad. Even the people who were like, oh, cool that they came. I went out and saw them. We're like, I don't know why he's telling us slavery is bad, though. We know this. Like, we're still affected by it. We're still affected by it to this day. Do not tell us what we know and what we live. And again, on top of that, they're also in the background is Meghan and Harry. Like, this place was racist. It has not changed. So it's very important for them to be close to these people. And one more bit, though, about that June 2022 moment is the media. So they go and do the statue unveiling. And normally when this happens for the Windrush, especially Windrush stuff, a bunch of different media outlets are invited, especially Black media outlets and Black reporters who make up so little of the UK media anyways. Well, because the royals were coming last minute, this was last minute, these were journalists talking about this who were supposed to go. Last minute, they told those journalists, sorry, you can't go, only the Rota. There's only space for the Rota, which means the people who covered that event were all white journalists, all conservative
journalists. Wasn't it in
journalists.
a train station? How is there not space?
Thank you. It just didn't make sense whatsoever. It was very clear they wanted to be covered in a very particular way.
Yeah.
And that's
because
why,
like you said, on the Caribbean tour, the local outlets were providing a lot of context. So hello.
A lot more context. Yes. About like local leaders who were trying to talk to William specifically about reparations and being completely blocked out. So a lot of little things like that.
And they know what they're doing.
Oh, they know what they're doing. Okay. And so again, and then we have officially in 2019, the government is telling us we're going to have like a Windrush Day. This is when they're announcing like to the grants and the reparations. And this is when we start seeing the royals hit the ground running with the Windrush movement. And I think that's a big factor because of course they have to underscore whatever the message is from the government. And the government does not, like if you look at like the National Portrait Gallery who has done some portraits of the Windrush generation and so on, every single government website talks about how much they've done. And there's just like one sentence to like, they were hurt though by the UK government. We love them though. Here's a portrait.
And even right after the coronation this June, Charles held a reception at the palace to unveil some of those portraits of the Windrush generation. So he's using the momentum of his coronation to get eyes on that generation and their contributions. It feels, it's very nice. It feels commemorative. But again, there's more that needs to be done in order to properly honor the legacy of these folks. And I think that's what Will and Kate's engagement was like, trying to get at the fact that there is some future work that needs to happen, but it's always framed in this way of focusing on
the
making
toxic
it
positivity.
Palatable. Making it palatable to these audiences around the country. Sorry. No,
I just, and a factor here, because that's important. It has to be chewable for the people who are reading the Daily Mail and the Telegraph, which is probably, as far as I'm seeing, a demographic that's mostly conservative and white. They don't like hearing about racism. They don't like, especially from them who probably grew up when these people were coming in, hearing about how they contributed to how, horribly they were treated through racism.
Yeah. And because the problem, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
Oh, no. I was going to say, you're right with the Cardiff, like you were saying, and the positivity. One of the things I only saw mentioned in one portion was that the area they were in is very low income. And it just so happens to be the community that's also very much populated by Black and Brown people from this generation. So let's not forget that these people were given these jobs to rebuild the nation, but in many ways they weren't given opportunities for themselves to grow. So they're still working these low paying jobs and they're in these, low economy communities and struggling. And
so what you're talking about is like this month's visit where they not only met with Windrush, they called them the Windrush elders in Cardiff in Wales, but they also met with young people who are getting, I think, mentoring, or they have a council that like kind of liaises with the Windrush generation proper. It's like their descendants, the youth in the community. And they also visited a high school, which I have a friend who lives in Cardiff. She texted me, she said, oh my God, she wasn't there that day. She was ironically in London, but she said, I've seen this high school. It's recently been rebuilt, or they got a new location for these students, many of whom are descendants of Windrush. And some of the notes from the media around Will and Kate's visit noted it's the most diverse, but also the most disadvantaged population in Wales, which the fact that those two things are still going hand in hand is just like, ugh.
It's irritating. Yeah.
But my friend said the school that was just built for them, it's awesome. And she said it looks much more American than other UK schools do. So it's this kind of like higher tech facility almost, this more state-of-the-art kind of school, which I love for these students.
I do love that. Yes.
To help them break out of this cycle of being disadvantaged. But the problem with visits like this, where Will and Kate are kind of just showing us that these things are happening, just showing us that this community exists, that they got a new school, whatever, and the problem with commemorating a statue. the effect of that on the base for the fan base of the royals is almost to make you think, okay, we're done. We did that. We solved it. There's no more work to happen here, but there is. And
there's so
when
much
you
more
do
work.
these, when you do these appearances that by definition, because it's the royal family, they can't be political, quote unquote. They can't be partisan. They can't give us a call to action. They can't tell us what work needs to be done still. You're left with these empty gestures. And there has to be a way to bridge that gap of getting us from recognizing to improving.
Exactly. And I mean, I think it's weird too, like when we know they're going to pull out we can't be political, but you know, Kate had a political roundtable for the early years. Not saying anything came of it, but it suddenly was okay to talk about how she's trying to change policy and she's meeting with politicians in a roundtable to do that. But I thought we weren't supposed to do politics. You know, the way that William talks about, the environment and saying like the government, he's literally said the government needs to do more. That's political. Ukraine. The next day, Kate did a surprise visit to a Ukraine center. And I said in my stories, I know they don't mean for this to be it, but I just couldn't help but think about how differently the Windrush generation, Black and brown people, were being treated than the Ukrainians who are white people. Obviously, the Ukrainians deserve that, but so does everyone. So why are only they getting that treatment? And I will say too, again, underlining how the government is like right here. This week there was like the Tory convention, think like the Republican convention for the US, and atrocious stuff was said, horrible transphobic stuff from the prime minister. And there was a lot of anti-immigration. And so I thought it was interesting that we saw her at the Ukraine visit the next day, because the night before is when you're getting all this like migrants and multiculturalism doesn't help Britain.
Refugees.
If you're going to come to Britain,
hello?
Be Britain then. Just be Britain, which means be white. So, and then you have Kate at the Ukraine Center. I just can't help but think it's for the government to be like, oh, but look, you guys, like, we do like migrants, just these ones. You know what I mean? And like, one more thing with the Windrush, I think there's a big focus on the elders, because I've always said a lot of Black and brown communities are more conservative than I think a lot of people think, especially our elders. If it wasn't for racism, a lot of them would be Republicans. Period, point blank. Okay, so it's truly not shocking, though, that a lot of our elders really like things like the royals. It kind of reminds me of Bill Clinton. The Clintons are racist. We know they are very problematic, but people love them some Bill Clinton. Okay, my Black elders still love them some Bill Clinton. Okay, even though he is
that saxophone.
Okay, he was our quote unquote first Black president until we got Obama.
Right.
Like, you guys don't understand the love for that man. It don't make no sense though. Okay, so I'm not shocking that UK elders like love the royals. Yeah. So it also for the British royals in particular, I think when they're having to think about their own stuff separate from the government, which is the Meghan and Harry stuff, I'm going to go to a group of people I know who will embrace us. That's going to be Black elders. For sure, it's going to be Black elders. I do think it's interesting. We're seeing them meet with more and more Gen Z, because we know how much they're struggling with Gen Z, especially POC Gen Zs. Plus, we just had a poll come out saying that almost half of young Black Britons want to migrate out of the UK because of racism. I think they said like 46% said they're proud or kind of proud to be Britain. And then the other half said they are not or not at all proud to be British. So I also think that's why we're going to see an uptick in them being around kids of color for the government and their own numbers. You know, they need to really bring them in.
It really works out as they're trying to hammer home that they're very much not a racist family on like several levels, personal, professional, you name it. You can bundle it all into one, and you can say it's Mark Black History Month when really this is just kind of a repackaged version of royal work you've done before.
And also, speaking of that, one more thing on this, because we must talk about, there's no mention of Black History Month in any of Kensington Palace's social media posts. No. Yeah, none. And that's them speaking to us the most directly is their social media posts. The only people who built Black History Month in their original statement. And then, of course, the media was like Black History Month, but KP never mentions it. like never mentions it. And I want to know who coordinated the event, because my first thought was seeing the first photos. I'm like, wait, I thought there was a Black History Month event. Why are they with a crowd of like mostly non-Black people? Like that doesn't make sense.
On any of these royal visits, the palace aides will go ahead of time and they'll wrangle all these people. Nursery schools, I think, are a big demographic to bring out.
Yeah.
So most of the pictures are from the walkabout, where the front row is like all these cute little kids. I think they have like little green sweaters on. They're waving the Welsh flag. That's very, very normal for a royal engagement. But it's like, where's the Black history in this?
Exactly.
And this is on
the visit, but this is supposed to be
I get it if you're coming at it from a place of Black history is for everyone. It helps everyone to understand this part of our this chapter of our story. I don't think that was the motivation.
No,
I think
it's diversity, because that is what Kensington Palace kept mentioning was diversity. All of their posts are talking about, let's embrace diversity. And then like, I mean, even like Kate's rugby wheelchair, it's diversity. We love diversity. So I guess
embracing diversity is so different than uplifting. Well, it's so different than uplifting these marginalized communities. Like, I don't know if they can see the distinction over at Kensington Palace. That it's not just
I think
enough
if they truly didn't know.
It's not just enough to say like we are diverse and that's great for the UK. It's also about leveling the playing field, and that's where they get into the issue of like, that's not really in line with their base. So
like how can you preach about equality when your entire system is you're better than everyone else because God chose you and your rich, luxurious blood to rule the country? Like it doesn't match up. I mean, I even said that with like Meghan and Harry working royals. Like I love the sentiment, and I'm sure they believe it's true, but you can't preach about equality when you're a working royal and you benefit from a system where you're better than everyone. You're not equal to everyone. And that's the entire point, is you're not equal to everyone. You're better than them, supposedly. So and like when they won't hire any Black people in an important staffing role, like a senior courtier or something, and when they kicked out the only Black member that they had from the family, and when the Black History Month, I guess, theme is like shout out to our sisters, it's just, I don't know, it's truly ironic. And then we've got Kate, you know, with so much Meghan inspo that she will never admit to. Also, one more thing too, with the Ukraine visit, I have to point out again with the politics that she wore. I'm not going to say the name right. It's CEFINN. Sefin. Thank you. That is owned by the former Tory Prime Minister David Cameron, and we know, if you remember, he is his the wife. One who pretty much gave him. Yeah, it's by his wife. David Cameron was the one who gave him that sovereign grant that they are just making billions off of and getting millions more every single year. Okay. And then on top of that, his spokesperson was Jean something. I'm forgetting the guy's full name, but that is now William's private secretary. So a lot of little connections there.
And also, on the flip side, it was David Cameron's government who cut the Sure Start program, if I'm remembering correctly, that Kate's early years work is based on, or is trying to replace. So like, it's just mind-boggling levels of like, hello, like I keep saying, hello. Why are we dissociating ourselves here to this level?
I'm just like, why are you wearing that?
Why are you
platforming? Tory convention? Yeah, it just seems like too obvious for me to ignore. But Kate is so good at doing the little slights.
Well, it brings us back to like, is she truly that ignorant of everything that she doesn't know? Or is it supposed to, or is she just supposed to be able to play that guy under that guise of, I didn't know it was just it's just a shirt. But when Meghan wears something, it's never just a shirt. It's never just a pair of earrings.
Because remember, she started wearing the Sefin. I said it wrong. Was it
Sefin. I think
Sefin. Okay, we going with Sefin. But she started wearing Sefin, like premiered that last year when she was doing the early year stuff. And people were calling, and that's when people picked up, like, wait, why are you premiering this brand when this woman's husband is like in direct conflict with what you're supposed to be doing?
Because like you don't even have to take too many steps to get there. It's like Sefin, owned by David Cameron's wife. David Cameron cut these programs. It's 3 steps. It's not even like we're doing mental gymnastics to get there.
Exactly. It's very, I don't know, one day, hopefully we will figure this out, the whys, because she knows it's obvious. But I guess too, when you know that the Royal Rota and the main papers will not hold you responsible and call these things out, you can do what the hell you want. Okay. You can do
Alex,
what the hell you want.
if I had one palace source, I think I would want it to be Natasha Archer. I don't care about the press communication office. I don't care about the private secretaries. No. Give me Natasha Archer, because I think that would be so telling. If we can figure out the stylist. If we can figure out why these choices are getting made, I think that speaks volumes about the operation of the place as a whole.
I want to talk to the nanny. I forgot her name. The nanny.
Maria.
Can I just sit down with you for 30 minutes? Even just give me 30 minutes, Maria. I just want to know it all, because I know she knows everything.
Yeah. Okay. I've heard from other people, like not the British, but like people who've looked after foreign royal children, and they said a lot of them are biters. I don't know. I don't think the Wales kids are, but other royal kids, biters.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And I feel like I should end this with maybe saying one nice thing about William, one of my friends who we love having these discussions about this stuff, and she's amazing. But she used to be a William girl, and we still make fun of her. I'm not going to say too much. I'm not going to say anything about what she does for her privacy, but she has met William a couple times in a work environment, and she swears up and down he really is handsome in person, and how tall he is amazing. So for all you girls who want to hold on to the fact that William is good looking, someone's vouching for you. I was like, is it just because he's tall, boo? And she's like, no, he's really good looking. Okay, he just does not photograph well.
I've heard this about Charles too, is like, he's so charming in person, even if he's not maybe handsome anymore. But I could totally see growing up in the royal family, knowing you're a prince would make you like hold yourself a certain way. And I think that has probably everything to do with it. He's tall and he grew up knowing he's special, you know?
Oh, he's so suave. Like, you know what I mean? She wasn't directly with them, but she knows people who were a part of a trip they did in DC. And all I'll say is a group of kids, like I think junior high, saw them and were like super excited and asked Camila and Charles, like, oh, can we get an autograph? Blah, blah, blah. Supposedly Camila was like, ugh, and walked away, annoyed, and Charles stayed and was loving it. Like, he's like, these young black kids know who I am. Hell yeah! Like, he was all about it. I mean, hey, maybe it's because Camila's a woman and she gets a little bit harsher, but I've heard she can be.
Or she's nervous. She's terrified all the time.
She's always like, like, it's gonna come get me. Oh gosh, sorry guys. I shouldn't laugh at that. I'm sorry. But thank you so much, Amanda. This was so much fun.
It's always so fun. Oh my God.
So thank you guys. You can find me on TikTok and Instagram on Lady Audaci-TEA. The Audaci-TEA is AUDI. Wait. Right now.
Wait.
It's been a long day. Looking right here. Okay. That's Lady, and then Audaci-TEA is AUDACITEA. I also have a Patreon.
Spelling bee.
I'm smart. Okay. I also have a Patreon. You can find Lady Audaci-TEA. I do mini episodes on there, like extra bits. And then I'm also doing like deep dives. It's a lot of fun. And usually with the deep dive, I like to do a couple like extra posts of just writing about this person's life. And Amanda, please tell them where they can find you and all your amazing work.
You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Matta of Fact. That's MATTA_of_fact. I also recently launched my Substack, The Fascinator. But to get there, it's just Matta of Fact, all one word, .substack.com.
Yes.
And I'm loving having a newsletter, Alex.
It's oh my God, it's been so good. And you're such a good writer. I know it has to be a really good, just like, to like let that out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Let me look up real quick for Meredith because she didn't shout out her stuff and I want her stuff to be shouted out. Do you remember what the name is to hers?
She recently changed the name of hers, didn't she? Wait. Pulling Threads.
Pulling Threads. Okay. Mm-hmm. And Meredith is not here for this recording, and I forgot to tell her to shout herself out for the one that we did. So I'm just going to say, you guys, she has an amazing Substack out. I'm sorry.
It's Pulling Threads with Meredith Constant, which I love the name.
It's
We've
so
moved
good.
past Meredith Constant's Substack, so we're here. We're doing it.
Yes, Pulling Thread. And she's about to do a new series. It's for paid subscribers. You guys, it's going to be good. She is
when
going
the media
over...
goes silent.
Yes, when the media goes silent. I know for Rose, William, and Kate will be covered, and also Wallace and Edward. And when there was a media blackout, it's going to be so good. You guys have already seen some of the info she's going to be putting out. So we got to shout out our girl. And she's Meredith on her TikToks and stuff like that. Meredith Constant for her TikTok and for her Instagram. So thank you guys. Thank you. Pinkies up. Thank you, Princess Amanda. Pinkies up, guys.